Ladies and gentlemen, clowns, hobos, circus freaks, burners, and whoever's still sober enough to locate their seats, let's make some noise for the one and only Dr. Techno, Bruce Cartier. The seagulls like that. Oh, there's a little sea creature over here. But anyways, first off, let's clear up a common misconception. Bruce isn't a real doctor. No, he's a male nurse. Which, in fairness, is basically a doctor who lost a coin toss. But for years, he's been Dr. Techno, prescribing glow sticks, healing with bass, and performing open heart surgery on the dance floor across the desert. If you ever needed CPR in the middle of a rave, Bruce was the guy who'd show up with a stethoscope made of LEDs and a soundtrack by the Crystal Method. Now, not many people can claim to have lived as many lives as Bruce. Circus performer, nurse, burner, landlord, desert philosopher. He's like if Hunter S. Thompson and Patch Adams had a baby and raised it in a school bus behind a methadone clinic. Let's talk about Bruce's real calling. Landlord to the lost and talented. Both landlords rent to people with jobs. Bruce rented to people with a vision and zero income. Hobos, clowns, jugglers, drummers, performance artists. His properties look like Burning Man crashed into a methadone clinic. And no one ever left. Bruce didn't run a housing business. He ran a halfway house for creative combustion. He didn't do background checks. He checked your vibe. If you could play the saw, quote Bukowski, and promise not to burn down the place again, you were in. Now, I first met Bruce answering an ad to rent an old Airstream mounted on a truck. The ad said, artist preferred. So I told him, I'm a life artist. He said, perfect, move in. I didn't realize move in meant living stage left of a circus. That first Technomania circus show changed my life. I thought I was renting a trailer. Turns out I had a front row seats to whatever the hell that was. I got dragged into it. Next thing you know, I'm shouting, FBI! On stage in front of 100 half-naked artists. It was confusing, loud, chaotic, and that was just sound check. But that's Bruce for you. He's got a magnet for weirdness. You meet him, and next thing you know, you're standing on a pile of trash in the desert shouting about art to a man in a tutu named Cactus Dave. Though Bruce and I got introduced to the holy, through Bruce I got introduced to the holy trinity of the desert, enlightenment, Salvation Mountain, Slab City, and East Jesus. To the uninitiated, that's like a pilgrimage to the Mecca of Mad. It's where people go to find themselves and then immediately lose their shoes, their tent, and their sense of time. And Bruce fit right in. He's like a desert monk, except instead of robes, he wears utility kilts and a tool belt full of glow sticks. Now let's talk about Burning Man. Bruce has been a burner since before it was cool, which means back when it was still mostly dust, drugs, and danger. Up there in the playa, he's in his element. A shirtless 70-year-old with goggles and a grin dancing through a dust storm yelling, "We're all stardust!" Meanwhile, his nurse instincts kick in when someone passes out. He's the only guy who can check your pulse and your vibe at the same time. Burning Man's motto is radical self-expression. Bruce took that to heart and then added, and radical sleep deprivation. He's seen more sunrise sets weird art cars, and accidental nudity than any man deserves. And that's just Tuesday morning at his camp. But let's not forget the early days. Bruce grew up with two brothers, which basically means his childhood was one long episode of the Three Stooges, except with more, I can't read that, more dessert, more beer, and more things exploding that shouldn't have. They loved hanging out in the middle of nowhere with chicks, booze, guns, motorcycles, and four-wheel drives. Basically the American dream, but with less clothing and more concussions. And yet, despite all that, or maybe because of all that, Bruce somehow ended up this big-hearted, endlessly curious, chaos-loving guy. The kind of man who could party all night, patch you up in the morning, and give you life advice that actually makes sense. If you can decode the dust-covered metaphor, he's turned 70, but he's not slowing down. He's still got the energy of a 20-year-old raver, the wisdom of a desert sage, and the property managed style of a benevolent pirate. Bruce, you've built communities out of scrap metal, art out of madness, and family out of the weirdest, wildest people I've ever met. You've proven that life isn't about being normal, it's about being alive. So here's to you, Dr. Techno, patron saint of Playa Dust, high priest of weirdness, and the only landlord who accepts interpretive dance as a damage deposit. May your burners burn bright, your tenants pay rent on time for once, and your next 70 years be just as gloriously unhinged as the first. Happy birthday, you magnificent freak of nature.